Hi everyone. I'm Carol Kaufman, the founder of the Institute of Coaching and a senior leadership advisor at Egon Zender. And I am here with Will Foussier, who, as you can see from the thingy, he's the AceUp founder and CEO. He was also one of Forbes 30 under 30. And we'll be talking to him today about a number of things. First of all, his development in ARC as a founder and what he got from coaching, and also about his vision. So let's start with your vision. How did you get the vision to democratize coaching, and can you describe what that is?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for having me, Carol. It's such a pleasure to be on this LinkedIn Live with you. And yes, happy to start sharing a bit more about my journey. I actually early in my career I did a school in hospitality management. So the notion of service was important to me. But I actually ended up in finance, and it was.
Okay, how?
Well, in hospitality management, you have a very strong concentration of uh, of hotel chains that are owned by asset management firm, and so it's sometimes important to also develop a finance expertise when you want to work in that industry. And so after college, I wanted to develop my technical analytical skills. So pursued in that industry, but I could not really project myself in it. There was a lack of meaning to me. And so
Mm.
this is actually what brought me to the US, because as you may hear from my accent, I'm born and raised on the other side of the ocean in France. And when I came to the US, I had the chance to work for the Clinton Global Initiative in their social impact investment branch. And so it was for me the opportunity to use some of the skills I had developed, but actually to support humanitarian initiatives around education, ecology. And so getting back to a sense of service that
Mm.
was indeed very important to me. And as I was in this journey in social impact investments, I've been able to witness for many underserved communities who were supporting the incredible impact of coaching.
Mm.
Myself, it was a time in my life I was going through some challenges, and I started to look into coaching. It was a tedious process at the beginning to find the right coach to work with, but when I did, it was literally a life-changing experience for me, literally. And this is when this obsession on how we can make this incredible solution that seems accessible to a privileged few, if I may say, at the top of organization,
Mm.
really accessible to all beyond the C-suite. And through this, really finding a ways to drive both economic growth and social progress in organization. And
Mm.
essentially helping organization through coaching address systemic issues of our time around ecology, discrimination, racial inequalities, and beyond. And so this idea of, again, driving economic growth and social impact through democratization of coaching was something
Mm.
fascinating to me, close to my love of social impact investment, and what led me to the journey of democratizing coaching.
So, what I love about that, one of the things, guys, I love about talking with Will is he always has this large vision, but how it all connects, the whole idea of economic growth, social impact, personal impact, coaching. It's really wonderful how it all connects, and it all connects in your organization. So I'd like to do two things. First, since we're there, talk a little bit about how AceUp does that with AI, et cetera. And then I'd like to go back to, I think, what struck a lot of us is, which I wrote in capital letters, life-changing experience of
Mm.
coaching. So tell us a little more first about how AceUp embodies that vision and a bit on what it is, because people may not know, and then we'll get back to you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking this question. Well, the first thing that was very important to us at AceUp was really the vision to bring quality coaching at scale and really premier leadership development coaching. And so we like to talk about what we do at AceUp as helping organizations build human-centered leaders at scale to drive purpose and performance in the new world of work. And so what do we mean by that? First of all, what do we mean by human-centered leaders, right? It was important for us to really identify a set of competencies, leadership competencies, each one of these competencies connected with very specific micro behavior that really capture what leadership excellence is. And so we have built this human-centered leadership competency cloud that really help us move from supporting individual to collective transformation. And this indeed brings us to the second aspect of our solution. It was very important for us at AceUp to, yes, meet individuals where they are, provide personalization at scale, but coach beyond the individual. And how we could build a solution with AI, with behavioral assessment, robust people analytics, and of course, premier leadership coaching that could connect individuals to teams and teams to the team of teams and ensure that we can drive collective transformation towards common cause, common goals. Essentially, how we can meet individuals where they are, so support the me, but ensure that we can drive transformation towards we. What do we believe? What do we stand for? What is the impact we want to have together in our organization, in the broader society? And so, again, our entire framework of coaching at scale is here to enable this systemic collective transformation.
You know what I love about this is, okay, I'm going to get a little nerdy for a moment. It reminds me of the concept of fractals. And so a fractal is something like where a little microcosm repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. So here we are going from economic growth and, social process and coaching through the person all the way down to these tiny leadership micro behaviors, which you develop through your app and nudges, and then build that back out. I think that's incredibly impressive. Do you want to give us a couple of examples of some key micro behaviors so that the coaches, the leadership coaches, can also be sort of thinking about that?
Yeah,
how to help develop those?
Of course, there are so many. And actually, I would love to hear what you have to say on this, Carol, because I know you're an expert in micro behavior. But first of all, to get back to what you were saying, you're right. It's really about connecting the macro to the micro. And so essentially, to step back from the organization, how do we start from specific business goals? What do we want to achieve as an organization? And how we can connect these business goals to organization and team and individual development needs and goals. And how we can connect these development needs and goals to a clear coaching strategy that will enable the upscaling and reskilling that will help execute the business strategy. And as part of this coaching strategy, there is really, what are the leadership traits, principle, behaviors that we want to embrace and master at work. And so the micro behaviors really help us not only capture tangibly what leadership excellence is, but also bring big data to the equation. Because now we can actually see with data and AI how we are identifying skill gaps, blind spots, misalignments based on these competency models. And of course, connect this with the goals of the organization. An example of micro behavior, for instance, to give a very concrete example, if we talk about change management, well, when you start a change management initiatives, do you actually ask the different stakeholders who are part of this change management initiative their opinion, what success looks like for them, and do you follow certain steps and processes that will ensure the successful outcome of that initiative? This is one example, but there are, of course, many related to giving and receiving feedback, time management, fostering inclusion, collaboration beyond.
Mm. So, could you give us an example of when you say using big data? How you go into an organization, you're collecting all kinds of stuff. You've got surveys and coach reports and all kinds of things. How, again, I'm just so struck today about the seamless alignment between the micro and the macro. How, maybe you can share with people just 2 or 3 ways of we use the big data to see this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, keep the work we do with our client absolutely confidential. But to name the work we were doing at a company, it was really important from a top-down approach, so from the leadership, to foster a growth mindset in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
That was something key for the senior leadership because they wanted their people to, according to them, engage differently with setbacks, with challenges, and etc., in a way that could drive learning and growth for the organization. And actually, what we've been able to see with big data from a bottom-up approach, if I may say, is the fact that where most of the challenges of the people came with giving and receiving feedback, managing up psychological safety.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very clear to see that the problem was not necessarily how people react to failures, but how safe they feel to be able to talk about it and how they feel supported to work on this failure with their managers, for instance. And so essentially what data help us, because we can see, again, in absolute confidentiality of the individual, the one-on-one collaboration between coach and coachee, encrypted, but through the aggregated data, we can see what people are actually really talking about. What are the key challenges they face at work every day? We can also see what are the type of content they consume, what are the goals they set. And based on this, we can really inform the organization about what are the real problems that are going on. Because if we want the collective transformation to be successful, we need, of course, to start by addressing the biggest challenge of the organization, which are often the synergies, if I can say, between the individual challenge and the organizational needs. So that's why the data help us never only push a top-down approach, it helps us bring together top-down and bottom-up to drive, first of all, to agree on what needs to be addressed and really drive alignment through this collective transformation.
What I love about it is basically what you're saying is if we take the organization as an organism and that you're taking its pulse, that you're using
Exactly.
big data to take the pulse of the organization to then know here's where we strong and grow, here's some areas to develop, and then all the way down to the leadership competencies, the micro behaviors, and then the nudges that all the individual coachees set up for themselves. So it's interesting. I'm thinking of like the nudges to keep a growth mindset, for example. People do that, 1,000 people are getting nudges, and how does that connect to how they lead? And then how does that ripple out through the organization?
Exactly. And what we can see actually very well with the data is how this behavioral change impacted a project, an outcome, an OKR, and as a result of that, connect really behavioral change to business impact. And that's also fascinating to see. Go ahead.
Some might not know what an OKR is. Why don't you?
It's objective key results. So it's basically an objective, what is your goal, and key result, how we measure it. And this is key to lead to determining what we call an ROI, a return on investment.
Yeah, and what's great about you is usually most of us kind of go, return on investment, you've got to be joking. That can be so fudged in numbers. But the way you guys do it and co-vary out lots and lots of things to show the connection with business outcomes is impressive. and not easy to do.
Thank you.
So, changing the channel.
Mhm.
So you went from, the Harvard Innovation Lab, Forbes 30 under 30, and now running a global organization. And as you said earlier, you found that coaching was a life-changing experience. I'd love for you to, as much as you feel comfortable, kind of elaborate on that. But if you can think of this as well, to elaborate on what was the coaching like and what was useful at the beginning of the arc of that journey when you were just out there a little puppy,
Yeah.
with an idea. And
Yeah.
then, through now where you have gigantic clients, from John Deere to luxury goods and super fancy high tech people. Um, how was, if you could maybe give us a couple snapshots of what coaching was like along the way.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Well, my journey started, as an immigrant in this country, and at the beginning, it was actually a very challenging journey. Um,
Mm.
I remember even one day I was denied entry to the US, and I had to work on my visa, and while I was remote and leading my team remotely before COVID. Uh, and so, this is an anecdotal story to say that uh, when I decided to engage in this journey, the level of my imposter syndrome was very, very, very high.
Okay, I
And
want to interrupt you on that
please,
count. I just have to say something about this, guys. So I'm working with about 7 or 8 global CEOs, like 300 billion plus companies. They all describe at different times having imposter syndrome. In fact, there's a whole group of them I call the 3 o'clock a.m. club that all
mm,
wake up at 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning and go, I can't do this. How did I become the CEO of this company? So I think imposter syndrome is actually normal. It's nice to figure out how to be comfortable with it,
yeah.
but anyway, so and you too, one of the
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is really important here because, um, that's of course my experience, but I think imposter syndrome never fully goes away. It's always here.
mm,
However, what coaching helps me do is embrace it, and be comfortable with, and building confidence in myself on how I was navigating the huge amount of unknown and uncertainty of the journey I was getting into.
yeah.
And there was also very practical skill set. I grew up as a more introverted, shy young Frenchman, and so coming to the US, especially at the time at the Foundation Clinton, I could see Bill and Hillary coming to the office in the morning, and I remember connecting with incredibly high-profile individuals, and am I good
Oh my
enough?
goodness.
Is that my right place? And actually, at the time, I was barely speaking English, to be frank. And so, if I didn't have a coach who helped me gain confidence in communicating in a different
Mm,
language, in public speaking, which was necessary for me to communicate about a vision, get people to join me on this endeavor, and of course, continuously work on getting confidence in embracing my role as a CEO, was absolutely critical. And then there have been an evolution of how I leverage coaching as a CEO, as the organizations grew. Happy, of course, to talk about it.
so we have a comment here from Jason Miller. Hi, Jason. Talking about Amy Cuddy, but one of the things she's shown that CEOs have the highest rates of imposter syndrome, and it's not a syndrome at all. In which case, Dee Polat also says it's definitely prevalent in high achievers, and she likes that we're shifting from getting rid of it to managing it. And I actually think in some ways it's a strength. It's actually a sign of your humility. I'm sure that a really, really narcissistic, bossy SOB CEO isn't worrying about
Don't have
good
them.
enough. as it is, but it's actually a reflection of the desire to grow and be at your best. When I've worked with some of these superstar athletes, they constantly feel that. So Dee and Jason and Jaspel, thanks for kind of
Thank you.
emphasizing that. Okay, so early on in your journey, it was really helping you with the communication. It sounds like coexisting with imposter syndrome in a way that allowed you to be more comfortable with also being human. What about later on in your career? How was coaching useful?
Yeah, well, coaching becomes absolutely critical for, many things. First of all, it's busy. It's you get busy when you build a company, and
Really?
oh, I know you have a strong idea actually about this, but it's very easy to let yourself get busy, and it's very
Oh,
easy to work hard without necessarily doing what the business needs you to do, or what your team needs you to do, what your clients needs you to do.
Mm-hmm.
From a very pragmatic standpoint, coaching has just been, sometimes I hear leaders who say, I'm very busy, I don't have time for coaching. Literally, each hour of coaching I was spending was at least 5 to 10 hours of productivity I was gaining back because I was clear on the problem I wanted to resolve, how to tackle it, and I was setting the right priorities. The second thing is, another thing that is hard when you build a company, and that's why we do the beautiful job that we do, is building teams, building
Mm.
high functioning teams. And this is where, beyond one-on-one coaching, also team coaching became a necessary part of in my journey to build the right team, to build the right leadership team, to build the right culture, to build the right organization. And I think that without that continuous support, it would have probably taken me much longer to get to the
Mhm.
status we are at today.
Yeah, I think actually all of us on the call also, I think, really relate to that, where there's like so many things to do, how to stay really focused in on our priorities and how to work, was it to do fewer things better and the right things? And we all need coaching on that.
Mhm.
So what else would you like to talk about? Want to talk more about the coaching, or do you want to talk about the one of your, passions, the hybrid work and future of work?
Yeah, I would love to talk about this and actually also get your insights on this question because um, I know that you support so many CEOs, and I'm kind of wondering what you hear are some of the biggest challenges that they are navigating in the hybrid world of work.
Hmm. I think it's also very different by industry. Some of them, there's much more of a pressure. I'd say the biggest challenge I'm seeing about this is one of influence and onboarding, which is how do they really stay an open system so that, I mean, a couple of my people are like super opinionated about it, and I have to like shut my mouth on going, seriously? But just staying open, talking to others, and as you said, making it a collaborative decision. And also, it keeps shifting. There could be another variant around the corner. But I'd say it's really one of influencing and collaboration to help come up with policies that work. One recent one we worked on it. He had about 20 different offices and divisions, and we just explored how could he just get input from all of them and make it a group decision, which he could do.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that resonates strongly with many things we see and hear. What has been, I think, very surprising also for C-suite executives. I think many people expected the returns to the office to go relatively seamlessly post pandemic. Uh,
Oops.
not happening at all. And as you said, every company and industry is different. And the first question is really, what does hybrid means for your organization? Because as
Mm,
there are industries where in retail or because they have warehouses, factories, wet labs, they need to have people on the
right. And
ground.
pharma, yeah.
Often the managers, the leaders needs to be there also to engage and challenge and collaborate with. So what is clear is that we're not going back to the way it used to be before. We have to reinvent how we work in a hybrid world of work with the right amount of in-person interaction, connection, but of course
Mhm.
the right amount of flexibility as well. And what we have clearly seen across our clients' portfolio is the need to how do we continue to build meaningful connection in this
Yeah.
hybrid world of work. And this goes through the need for people to master new skills, new competencies. And actually, we did a research at AceUp on human-centered leadership, and we interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of C-suite executives, and uh, less than a third of them think that their people are equipped to lead effectively in this hybrid world of work.
Mhm.
And indeed, in the midst of employees' expectations that have changed, organizational alignments that is harder to make happen in this hybrid world of work,
Mm.
um, the role of coaching to really enable meaning, connection, and growth in this new world of work is really key. And I think that's also why we continue to see booming in adoption of coaching at scale with many
Yeah.
organizations. Yeah.
So one of my fun facts from your organization, so this is a great one for us as coaches, is that 74% of executives thinks they are inspiring, but only 27% of the people they lead agree. So I would wonder how that's made so much more complicated by leading virtually.
Yeah, absolutely. And also why a coaching strategy needs to be systemic. Uh,
Hmm.
you cannot really drive transformation if you only accompany the C-suites.
Mhm.
The role of coaching, frontline leaders and middle managers is very important. But what matters the most in coaching at scale and why the technology is crucial is how do we coach the connection?
Mhm.
And how do we ensure that there is not a misalignment of this magnitude that concretely can really make collaboration, engagement much more challenged at work?
Mhm.
And yes, it's fascinating to see that because of this hybrid world of work, um, silos, misalignments are becoming, a real challenge for organizations to address. And so they have to reinvent their organizational structure. They have to reinvent employee engagements against
Mhm.
in that environment, the right way to connect people at all level of the organization.
Right. So that goes back to where we began, how to connect to, big social shifting all the way down to the micro behaviors of the leaders. So when they're leading hybrid teams, there can be a bunch of small things they do, tiny acknowledgments, smiling, a chat. What are the tiny things that can weave people together? So I'm wondering, how can people learn more about you and your work? Because this was the tip of an iceberg. So how can people connect with your organization
Yeah,
and
thank you
white
for
papers
asking.
and all kinds of stuff?
You know, uh, I take the opportunity to say that as well. Uh, the unique vision and the unique positioning we have at AceUp and the impact we aim to have in this industry would have not been possible genuinely without you, Kerbal, and the incredible support of the Institute of Coaching community.
Mhm.
Really, your mentorship has really been, um, you know, something very important for me through this journey. So thank you so much for that. And how people can learn more about AceUp? Well, we're going to share in this thread our research on human-centered leadership and what it means in this world of work. Feel free to engage with our research. You can also go on our website, aceup.com. If you're a coach, we actually coach literally at all levels, up to the C-suite and the executive leadership team. So, and down to the entry-level employees. So we have room for every coaches in our work. So please reach out and looking forward to connecting.
Yes, and your organization is growing. So, guys, you may want to see about becoming a coach for AceUp. Will, thank you. It was a really nice conversation. I enjoyed it. And I love the comments in the background from people. So, everybody, thank you. We look forward to more contact with Will and the rest of you. Take care.